Good morning, Javelina. Sunday, October 29th now. We are now, I guess, 12 hours removed or so from your heroic victory last night. I don't know if that's accurate whatsoever, but we'll use that as an estimate. I'm, of course, joined by my two great co-hosts for the weekend, Adam Merring and Abby Hall. Good morning to you two.
Good morning.
And we are joined by the champion, Jonathan Ray from Boulder, Colorado, following up the second place performance from 2022, bringing home the W last night. John, how you feeling this morning?
I'm all right. Slept okay. I basically woke up every 1 to 2 hours to eat a couple more slices of pizza. So continuously just like on the train of like eating, like I was in the race still. And by the end, I've gotten 2 pizzas down since the race.
Wow. Now, dude, to add to this story, I heard you're camping there, right? In the tent?
We did the night before. We slept in bed flat.
Okay. I was going to say.
We did camp the night before. Yeah.
So you just had boxes of pizza on the bedside table and just occasionally would wake up and shovel?
That actually would have been a lot smarter. I had to walk all the way across the house to get to the fridge. So that was somewhat like grinding.
Unknown to your Western states, bedside pizza.
Okay. Got it.
It's just dawning on me that we are now a cabana filled with Boulderites and former Boulderites here.
That's right.
Don't you?
Mimi.
That's a good little through line there. John, amazing, man. So you ran just over 13 hours last year, 15:05, 12:43 yesterday. I know through the first like 3-4 laps, we're like, yeah, it should be kind of close. Like he's like kind of on 13-hour pace. He should feel the challenge to cut his record. And then you just absolutely waste that 5th lap to bring home a new course record. Tell us like high level how you feel about the day so far before we go into the details.
Yeah, I'm really proud of it. I had anchored my mind to 12:45 is what I thought I could do before the race. And the first 2 laps felt like, yeah, this is going to happen. I was questioning it a lot on laps 3 and 4. And then, yeah, lap 5 came so much easier than I thought it would. And I was just able to switch gears and hang on to it. And that feels so good that I was able to do something I wasn't actually expecting to be able to.
Did you guys watch John coming through transition?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't think I said this on the air last time, but dude, you are one of my favorite people to watch race because like every photo, it's just like straight faced in the best way. Like no, like not no emotion in a bad way. It's like, dude, you're freaking locked in.
Yeah.
And that's how you look coming through every incident, like perfect stride, so composed. And then on that 5th lap, I saw you going out and it was like, he looks exactly the same as like lap 2.
You like truly like the pace you're going to, like, I mean, you just like fly through the tent village and like, I'm like, you know, deep down kind of one of the alleyways. And it's like, I just like catch a glimpse of you here and there. And yeah, you're just motoring.
Dude, his 3rd lap transition, no joke, 10 seconds.
Okay.
Wow.
Insane. Put a pack on to the left.
So talk about that a little bit, John. Like, are you sort of like the locked in analytical guy? Because you've never been on the show, so we don't know each other super well. And of course, I always ask people what makes you you. So maybe answer that question. Are you like, tell us about like how your personality maps to performance and whether or not Adam's touching on something there in terms of you being really locked in, analytical, focused on your performance.
Yeah, I'm analytical. I have an engineering background, but I don't apply that many numbers in thinking to running. I try to be pretty intuitive and go based on feel with numbers in the background, I suppose. But definitely just from like hard work in engineering and work world, and understand that like just forgetting about time, forgetting about everything else, and just like being really focused on something for a while is like what makes the most progress on solving a problem.
Yeah.
And like, you know, if I get distracted by side things and have to like break up my workflow state too, then similarly to running, I just like want to stay in that state. And so I could pass a photographer and like smile at them and wave. And I do that sometimes, I think. Definitely at CCC, that was like, I carried so much energy from like smiling and getting awesome responses from the fans and things. But most races, I just like want to stay in the same state.
Amazing. So focusing, it seems like, this season for you has been a huge breakthrough. Is there a change in focus? I mean, last night we were talking with your wife, Rachel, who mentioned that you gotten connected with a sports psychologist. In our preview show, Adam was mentioning that he feels sort of a kindred spirit to you and that you're both sort of, people with real jobs on the side while competing professionally as athletes. What's changed for you this year? I mean, especially in the second half of the season, following up the 4th place at CCC, huge course record victory here today. Is it just the focus and the new sort of psychological framework with your sports psychologist coach that you're working with?
Yeah, kudos to Adam for both working and fatherhood. And now I lost train of thought.
Just like on the theme of like focus, right? And the sports psychology thing that your wife mentioned last night, is that something that you feel like has contributed to at least the last 2 amazing performances?
Yeah, and also something I'm carrying from Western States this year, where I was trying so hard to avoid major problems that I was like, it's okay to like spend a couple extra minutes here. Like, let's be careful on the snow and not make a major mistake. Like, let's do like the major things right. And if you lose a few minutes here, a few minutes there, like that's fine. But like that didn't work for me. It didn't put me in a competitive mindset. And like growing up, it was always like the little things indicate your intentions and what you're trying to do with the big things. And so paying attention to like pretending that every little second matters. It matters whether I step around this rock or jump over it. It matters if I fill my bottle with scratch powder as I'm running into the aid station or while I'm in it, and that saves me a couple seconds. So if I just tell myself that every moment matters, it puts me in such a different mode of competition than if I'm just like, I know in reality that no, those 2 seconds don't matter, but from a mindset perspective, telling yourself that every moment matters helps. And so it also just keeps me in that focused state that I was able to, I guess, overcome not having been focused as much at Western States and then doing it both at CCC and here better.
Goosebumps.
I've got that. Yeah.
Talk about that, Abby, because it seems like that's a philosophy that you adopt too, especially in your recovery from this serious injury, really focusing on the little things.
100%. Like, I'm a big believer that, so much of what makes us in this sport happen, I mean, in the sport and out of the sport, like, happens when no one's watching, And so it happens in those little moments of balancing work and training. It happens on those, early mornings or late nights or long runs. And it happens when you're filling your bottle with powder and getting it all over your hands and efficiently cleaning them off and like whatever insert random little thing here that's part of race day is. I think it all is adding up to something. And it's like, it's very clear that you brought intention to everything you were doing out there. So I think that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, it's like when my dad was coaching my little league or my soccer basketball teams growing up, and his number one thing was like hustle to your position. Like clearly that's not time that matters for the outcome of the game, but it still demonstrates that you're there.
Yeah.
You're present and
charge out of the dugout into left field, but something like that.
Yeah.
So I know you're like also, like you've got this like analytical kind of engineer's mind, but then also like, clearly the emotion of getting back to Western States is one that reigns heavy for you. Like speak to like how you're feeling emotionally. Like, what does this mean to you to be going back?
I grew up in California. It feels like,
Where are you from?
Yeah.
Palo Alto.
Oh, dope.
Cool.
Yeah. So Western States, like I had started running in Colorado, far away from home. I have 5 siblings and they're all still living in the Bay Area. And like, I'm just like the one living outside of the state doing my own thing. They're like, I don't know, like John runs these like really weird long races. He did like doing his thing, but they didn't know where it could lead or like the professional side of the sport that now I have gotten to. And like for the first like 4 or 5 years, I was just like running long distances with no real reason.
Right.
But it's changed a little bit. And so, but they had never seen it in Western States in 2021. 2022, sorry.
Yeah.
Was the first trail race I'd ever been to. The first time they'd seen me run in a race. They saw me play like thousands of basketball and baseball games and things growing up, but never a running race. And so that was really meaningful, that it became a big family event and a reunion. And like my nephew left the Airbnb after the weekend at Western States the first year being like, wow, like, could we stay here again next year? It's like this little farm, a little creek, and there's like love playing it. Like, can we do this family reunion again next year? Yeah, like huge motivation to like get family back together. And
Book the energy.
Yeah.
Funny. We were just talking that this is John's third golden ticket.
What's he gonna do with all of them? You know?
Yeah, so he's got 2 hanging on his wall at home. I hope he got space for number 3. Those things take up a lot of room, a lot of real estate on the walls. So going into your performance, I was going back and looking at the splits on the tracker. And I was just specifically looking at Jackass to headquarters. So that sort of, I think, 8.5-ish mile, mostly downhill section. Is that about right in terms of distance?
yeah,
Yeah.
8.5, 9. Yeah.
8.5, 9 miles.
It was the signs say at least 5.2, then 3.7.
Okay.
Good sign, yeah.
So about 9 miles. And the first lap is a bit longer. He ran 1:21. So that's more like, 10.5, 11 miles. So, yeah, then there was no accurate split for the second one. So let's just focus on the last 3 splits from Jackass to headquarters here. John ran 1:05 on the third lap, 1:10 on the fourth lap, and then 59:40 on the fifth lap. Well, in other words, his fifth lap split from Jackass to the finish was his fastest one. Execution, bro. So going into that, I mean, like, obviously you were running as the man possessed. You knew you had, it was your race to lose at that point. But we were talking last night about how you were getting updates from Rachel about how Ryan was catching up to you and that you drew on an experience you had with Dakota Jones in last year's race. So just talk about that execution and sealing the deal when you had the opportunity.
Yeah, I was told by Rachel going into the last lap that he was 7 minutes behind, but making up time. And I was struggling on lap 4, like not feeling good. And I think that split was actually especially slow because I was having some gut distress. Like I was like, squeezing my stomach and like burping a bit to try to get that out. And like I had to take a little bit of time doing that. Like I never stopped, but was definitely just like, oh man, like I just need to finish right now. I need to like back off and get out of race mode for a minute. But yeah, like hearing that, reminding myself that this was still a race. Like I'm not actually just out there to finish. Like I do have another level of effort and it's worth it to give everything I have. Was just like a good cue that I got from Rachel. I needed to have that at that time. And I didn't think it was really possible to match what Dakota had done last year to me.
Take us into that experience too, just to set the context, because you sort of snuck up on Dakota last year.
Yeah, that was interesting. I didn't see him I think he was in first place and I was in second at the end of lap 2 even maybe. But I didn't see him at all on lap 3. And then on lap 4, I also just didn't see him until like he came into view at the very end of the lap. And then like all of a sudden he like stopped and went out to the side of the trail to like feed behind a tree. And I passed him and I was like, I don't know if he's even going to see me. Like it's going to be like an interesting. When he comes out from behind, he's like, hey, wait, like who are you? But anyway, I passed him like a half mile before we got back to headquarters. And I didn't know. I was like, well, what do I do with this? Like, I was like approaching that situation being like, I think I'm about to pass him in the first place. Like, he's coming back to me. I'm going to be stopped. So now I'm definitely going to pass him. Like, am I supposed to do something with this? Like, is there a strategy behind this? Like, someone tell me, like, teach me what to do in this kind of race situation. Am I supposed to like make a move? Am I supposed to slow down? Should I not pass him? Should I pass him faster? Like I was lost.
Yeah.
but Dakota knew the heck he was doing. And like he just like coasted right behind me through headquarters and then left. And he said, "Hey, see you out there." And I was like, "Okay, cool. That's nice of him." Like it seemed like he's down to run together. And then like I just didn't see him again because he just ran so hard right from the beginning of that lap, and I was scared to do that because there's still 20 miles left. I still needed to like pace it and regulate myself, but he was able to get himself to just pick it up earlier. And I think, yeah, you can just always kick a little earlier, probably.
Yeah.
Like, how often are you actually totally spent at the finish line?
So backing up a step, Matt Daniels came into the second lap ahead of you in the lead, and then you left in the lead. Did it feel to you at that point that the race was under your control? Did you ever feel like, under duress at all? Aside from that moment where you heard that Ryan was sneaking up from behind?
I didn't have any information about people behind me until like for the entirety of laps 3 and 4. I can't, like when I finished lap 2, Rachel and other crew said that he was throwing up. Like Matt was throwing up in front of me. I was like, oh, dang, that's too bad. That was
because you guys trained together.
Yeah, we did.
You guys came in loop 1 together too.
Yeah, that felt really good to run together. In loop 1, he like showed me around like in Chamonix before CCC, and that meant a lot to me to like have someone who knew what the heck they were doing. And like honestly, when I got there, like running out on the trails by myself, I would have felt like so exposed and so lost. And he was just like there to be like, hey, yeah, let's just go like do this run, and I'll show you around, and I'll be there with you. And like that was just so comforting. And so like I wanted to make sure we did a little bit of training before Javelina too, that like he was going to be a friend out there. And so, yeah, him doing that for me meant a ton. And so I wanted to definitely make sure I was going to do what I could to help him have a good race yesterday too.
So like when I've seen you race before, I feel like my perception has been that like you're a closer and like you are like one who's like picking people off at the end. And maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but then like if yesterday you were front running for 3 laps. So like how is that kind of shift in experience to go from maybe being someone that's used to chasing people down in a field and like, landing on the podium or sneaking up behind people and, being in that position where you don't have that intel on what's happening in the rest of the race quite so much?
Remember last year off the start line, like Pat Reagan was in the race. He's won the race 3 times. Everyone just fell in line right behind him, sort of like as a sign of respect to like, this guy knows what he's doing. If I'm like going out in front of him, or it's probably not the right thing to do. I like, let's going to take cues from him. And then this year, I felt like people did that to me. Like people fell in line right behind me from the very beginning. So like even like after the first quarter mile, the first steps on single track, I was in the lead, and I was like, well, that feels really good as like a sign of respect almost from the other runners. And it felt natural. Like I did have that confidence. I think since signing with Hoka this year and having a good race at CCC just gave me a confidence to be like, no, I'll do well. I can do that. Like that, I'm not scared by the prospect of that. It felt somewhat natural.
That's really interesting about like, those sort of like intangible signals of respect within the field about like who takes the lead and who follows, and sort of cultivating that belief of where you belong in that necking order over time.
Or at least it's what I told myself. I give myself a confidence boost. I don't know if that was reality, but
No, I mean, I think this is like a symbolic moment for you, 4th at CCC on a huge stage. Just behind Dakota again there, who's a legend, first ballot Hall of Famer, a guy who's been in the game forever. Now breaking his course record here, getting back to Western States where you have your 3rd opportunity. Does this feel like kind of transition moment in your career? Because one of the things you said earlier, and I was going back and looking at your historical results, is it wasn't obvious that you were going to be a superstar for, the first 3 years you're in the sport, right? And now you're like very much, in that sort of upper echelon, that top category. Does it feel that way to you, that this is sort of a transition moment?
Yeah, I love that in my Chasing Gold interview with Jamil before Javelina, he said, John's first ultra was in 2015 at the Dirty 30. He was 23rd place in a time of 5:27 or something, and I was like, yeah, I was really proud of him. 23rd place in this like local race. And then, like, I was stoked by it. Like, I thought 6 hours was going to be fast, and I ran like 5:30.
No.
And
I share that Dirty 30 experience, by the way. That was my first ultra as well.
I'm so sad that this is the first year that they didn't get their permits, and so they're this canceled. We're not doing it anymore.
But dude,
I did the first edition of the Dirty 30 back in the day.
it's a great race. But dude, I have to say, man, like, I'm glad you brought this up, this theme, because like, dude, we used to both live in Golden, right? And so I've seen John shit on Strava, like his CRs up Green Mountain and this, and it's like, he's been out here for a long time, you know, like racking up great race results. And so I feel like it is always that thing of like a breakout year is like fueled by and like built upon. I don't know. I've known you could do stuff like this for a long time. So it's super cool to see. But do you feel like something changed for you, like in the last year or two, or has it just been like a natural progression?
It's mostly been just a couple % improvement every year, but I do think it was like a step change when I got my first golden ticket at Bandera. I was like, oh, like I can do that. Like I didn't, like I wanted to do well at Western States sometime in my life. Like that was a goal, but I didn't think that it was going to come that quickly and that like I just came toward getting the NBA a golden ticket rather than through lottery. It's like, oh, okay, like I can be competitive. And then another step change when signing with Hoka is like, okay, I'm a professional. Like that label gives me confidence. Like putting on a jersey, like gives me confidence. And so both of those step changes, I think, re-boosted my motivation and abilities.
So going back to what you were talking about earlier, you know, and doing the little things, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Your coach, Adam St. Pierre, was in the chat last night as you were crossing the finish line, breaking the tape. And he added some anecdotes about like what you've been doing in between CCC and Javelina, like the sauna work, the strength work. Your wife, Rachel, mentioned the sports psychology stuff. I'd love to hear you just like go through a couple of those things and just talk about how those have impacted, you know, your on trail performance, because obviously I think a lot of people would love to learn from you on that front.
Yeah, the sauna work feels routine now, actually, after having done it a couple times for Western States and Javelina cycles. But it definitely is a big time suck to just like have that tag on another like 3 hours of doing stuff for a week.
Just like sitting.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's been a while since I've done strength work, but yeah, Adam, my coach, was going to...
Except for that clean and jerk the finish line last night. Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to have me start doing some of that. Like, I did a lot during, like, college baseball, but I haven't done it much since running. And so it's like, yeah, like, we could probably grow and get better that way. And then, like, I've also been doing, like, 200-meter refeeds on the track because, like, my track times are so slow and that I just, like, don't even know how to pick up my legs high enough or, like, to run actual fast. And I feel like I've just like learned how to run with better form because of doing some of those things.
Is that something that's happened prescribed?
Yeah, 200 meters.
Just to work on kind of your form and economy?
Yeah, I think
Wow.
basically with the goal of improving running economy. That I wasn't like trying to increase VO2 max with short intervals, but basically like, yeah, form running economy.
Interesting.
And yeah, it worked. I like, yeah, I've like totally outsourced all my physical training to like, I don't have to think about that. I'm just going to do whatever he says.
Good. Yeah.
With the goals of like getting better in the long term and, you know, being ready for specific races too. But he's like pretty good at, you know, building on previous things, working on some strengths and weaknesses and keeping things somewhat routine. But then every once in a while, it's like throwing in some new stuff. And I definitely have always responded to the new stuff with like, whoa, like that's like curveball.
Huh.
Okay, I guess I'll try that. And then it's always been like, whoa, like I responded really well to it. So
He's got a pretty
fun different things.
He's got this like a nice stable of athletes now, right? Adam St. Pierre is not like a name you hear a lot in sort of the coaching circles, but you, Hillary, there's somebody else who I heard recently is getting coached by Adam St. Pierre.
When I joined, he had Corinne and Gabra athletes too, but yeah. So he's on the radar, but he was in the Coop camp. I met him at a Jason Coop training at Fest the first time that I met him. So that's when I reached out to That's what fetch me.
One thing I'd love to toss up to the panel here is just like versatility, right? Finishing fourth at CCC in a big route race and winning here in a fast 100-miler. Very different courses, very different races, different distances. You know, how do you prepare for that psychologically, physically, and, you know, develop the capability to compete across that range of, you know, courses and topographies?
To an extent, it's all running out of that. I think a lot of it translates. I felt like the flatter parts of CCC felt really good and easier. And like, I tried to do a bunch of mountain stuff for like between Western States and CCC, but it was still like last second. Like I was barely starting to feel more comfortable on steeper terrain right before CCC. Like, you know, 2 weeks before, I was like, well, man, before that, every run uphill was like, this is hard, this is steep, this pack is heavy, it's bad, I'm not going to be ready. So I knew that, like, it was going to be easy to transfer back to Javelina because the flatter stuff was coming easier. But I feel like, yeah, next year I probably need to do way more for in advance of Western States to make those parts of course feel good.
Anything you guys want to add on that?
Well, I don't know. I just want to say, like, I feel like for me, right, like, watching John's growth as an athlete, like, dude, you are an exceptional athlete. To me, like, I feel like I reconsider some of the way that I train or the way I approach races because of watching things that you're doing in training. I'm like, what the heck is he doing? Like, repeats up and down lick skillet? That is, like, crazy. Or, like, 7 loops at Walker Ranch. Like, what? But then you hop off these results and it's like, damn, maybe he's onto something. And so it's the same as like Jim back in the day doing these crazy blocks. It's, I don't know, it's really cool to see.
Yeah, although like Jim was messing them themselves probably, and
that
was a very
repeat thing, dude. I don't know.
What's the lick skillet repeat?
I just put on my calendar.
Lick Skillet Road is the steepest, I believe it's the steepest county
It's up
road.
Boulder County, or Boulder Gillette Sound.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Kyle Pietari made it famous for running a sub 4-minute mile before the 4-minute barrier in Colorado had been broken. So he ran like a 340 something running down. So
this is a
700.
This is a road that is like driving up in a car is like, I'm not going to make it up dirt road. It's so steep.
Yeah.
And back when Joe Grant lived there, we used to do an uphill beer mile there. Yeah, it was always a good time.
So it's on the way to Gold Hill. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah, finishes. Yeah.
Tell about the workout though, dude.
But yeah, just like saw on my calendar. Do 20 miles. To go up and down like Skillet Road 10 times. Like 20 miles, 7,000 feet of vert. Just like going up and down a dirt road. Like, you really want me to do that? I'm gonna do that Friday morning, and like that's gonna be so steep, and that's gonna be terrible. But actually, like, it gave me a lot of confidence that I could actually still run up that steep of a grade, deep in a run when I was tired.
And down.
Yeah. Well, and then
Some of those downhill
and then,
splits.
well, he had me do it twice. And the second time he threw it a couple of hard uphill efforts and like a hard downhill effort. And it was like,
Was that CCC or pre-Western States?
Western.
Interesting. I think it's really applicable for both, actually. Yeah.
So interesting. Well, we should probably start wrapping up. I'm sure you got other stuff to do today. You know, we already talked about last night about, you know, looking ahead towards Western States. Is there anything else like goals in the short, medium term, maybe between now and then, or things that you're thinking about that you're motivated to do in your career?
Well, the Bolton ticket race that I haven't done is Black Canyon. That I've wanted to do for the longest. Maybe I'll still save it for another year, or maybe I'll consider going out there because that's just like such an appealing race.
With no pressure.
Yeah, with zero pressure.
And there's 3 tickets on the line there, too. So,
Might be helpful pressure.
yeah.
Like that stress is useful. But I don't. Yeah, no other plans.
Are you like in off-season mode now? You gonna take some time, or?
Yeah, I think I'm going to get back into doing, I feel like, the more strength training and the sprint intervals. Like, this was kind of like an interruption of that sequence for the rest of the calendar year. Team Indy.
I know we're wrapping up, but do we know other people who've done 3 tickets?
Eric Sensman.
Yep.
Black Canyon Master.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just remember because we finished that.
Yeah.
It's, I prefer to get top 10.
Good point. Third time's a charm, man. And as I said to you yesterday, a certain Flagstaff resident took 3 tries to get a ride at Western States. He's got 3 Cougars now. So anyway, dude, congratulations. Incredible run yesterday. Incredible season. So well deserved. And yeah, thanks for making the time to come hang out with us this morning. Hope you guys have a safe travel back and a really restful off season.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Sweet.
Congrats, dude.
Yeah, congrats.
All right, John, you can be excused. Rachel, thanks for allowing him to come hang. He's got a nice cold smoothie waiting for him inside. But now, Adam, Abby, and I are going to talk a little bit more about the race, how everything played out throughout the rest of the top 10 and stuff.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
Dude,
See you.
congrats, man.
Huge congrats. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Bye.
Bye, Rachel. Bye, John. Good to meet you guys. Yeah.
All right, so first of all, that was awesome. What a guy.
What a guy.
What a guy. Huge, huge future ahead. And yeah, I think like we just were talking to about, kind of like a symbolic turning point moment, I think, in his career. So
Blue collar Boulder guy, man.
yeah.
Puts in Oregon.
So not to brag, but we made our predictions on Friday. I was right. We were wrong. Guys were wrong.
No, but to Brad, though, 11th in the rankings, dude. Right here, back up. Me and Leah. Can you hear that?
He's 6th. Ryan.
Oh, that's...
No.
Okay, all right. I was stoked on my 11th, you know?
I was 143rd. I did think a John for the bet.
Oh, okay.
When
Next time.
yeah. Anyway, shout out to Pat Bardos, Carson 116, and Steve Josepher, who finished 1st through 3rd. So we got Hoka prize packages for all of those great fantasy participants. Yeah, then Ryan was 6th, Leah was 10th, Adam was 11th. So
Just have them.
great competitions. So before we go into some of the other storylines, just maybe high level, tell us about your guys' day. Maybe we can start with you. I know you're out there trying to help out your buddy Matt Daniel.
Oh yeah. It was a tough race for Matt, but it was great being out there, man. We had my son and my wife were out there, and so it was super cute seeing Arthur get to experience his first desert race. But man, it was cool. Like, just, I don't know, we were pretty near the turnaround point for that horseshoe, at the start finish.
Cool.
And just seeing all the different runners go by, all the other folks out there in their tents vibing out was really cool. So I don't know. I definitely want to come do Javelina sometime now.
Yeah.
Perfect from a crew standpoint. You just get to hang out all day.
Yeah.
It's so uncommon.
100%. I mean, and like the entire kind of like culture of that start finish area is, I was really feeling it this year. Like, I think it was even leveled up from last year, just in terms of atmosphere, like volume of people, but just like, it was just turned up to 11. It was pretty exciting. I was out there crewing for 4 friends, a couple from Boulder and a couple that I met yesterday. So it was a really fun, just like a fun experience out there, getting them all out, get all 4 finished under 24 hours. Super exciting.
Nice.
And then, I mean, I was thinking about it, like I think Dylan, you mentioned how it kind of has like Burning Man vibes. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, I don't know much about Burning Man, but it's like, isn't the whole thing like, it's supposed to be this like trade economy kind of like you come with a skill or something so it was pretty cool. Like I was thinking about like what my job would be like on the playa, or like what my offering would be like to Javelina. And yesterday, I think my job was talking one of our later finishers about like not DNFing. And I was like, I could be like someone that you like call her up and she'll come like talk you out of it and like get people back on the course. That would be like my dream, like Javelina playa job, I think.
Dude, that role is so important.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
And shout out to my parents they just like wanted to come help out, and they went out on the road and they were just driving people back and forth to their cars. So they would just like pick up people along the road. Hey, you want to ride? It's pretty great.
That is so cool.
And then my last shout out I have to give is to my friend Eli Zabielski, who finished the AZT 3 days ago and then just finished the Javelina 100 last night.
No way.
Yeah, so super next level stuff.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
How long did the AZT take?
I believe 25 days. He was averaging like 32 miles a day. Cranked it out, had like a rest day and a half, and then picked up that bib and went out there for some laps around around Javelina.
That is so serious. Wow.
Impressive.
All right. So talking about sort of some of the storylines, I think one thing that really stands out is attrition. You guys both
100%.
saw, I'm sure, some of the attrition there at headquarters throughout the course of the day. The men's top 10 separated by 3 hours, first to third. The women, 5 hours from first to 10th.
Gosh.
So big time attrition, notable drops: Matt Daniels, Ryan Miller, Hal Kerner, Preston Cates, Brett Hornig, Shea Aquilano, Stephanie Flippin, Tara Dower. It was a tough one out there.
Heroes
Yeah.
falling.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, I'll just have to say, everyone I'm sure has different reasons. Maybe they were sick coming into the race, maybe had a tough mental day, like burnt out. That was Matt's case. But dude, like, I have to say, it felt hot in the sun.
Yeah.
Just standing
It
there
did.
crewing, I was like, man, this is hot, And so,
And if we're feeling that as bystanders, that like usually it's the opposite, right? Perfect running weather, your runner comes in a singlet and you're there in like a down coat,
Yeah.
shivering. Like, must have been really hot for runners yesterday.
So, and also, I was just kind of like thinking about, because sometimes you have races that the conditions are really tough, and for some reason everybody finishes. Like,
Yeah.
for example, the 2021 Western States, that historically hot year where the women's top 10 was, for some reason, the fastest top 10 ever.
Yeah.
And then the men's race completely exploded. But it's like, man, it was a hot race, but also kind of like the end of the season. It's golden ticket race. So, like, if your race starts to spiral, you lose sight of that golden ticket goal. Maybe it's a little bit more tempting to pack it in, but yeah, just a lot of attrition. We still saw course record performances in the 100K with Raj Panu and
Crushed it.
Anna Cautious, and then of course John Ray with his course record performance in the 100 miler as well. So it was like kind of a strange dichotomy there of like epic implosions and attrition, but then still historically fast times. So maybe let's just kind of go through the men's and women's top 10s and sort of wind down for the weekend. But, the other golden ticket, the golden ticket chase was fierce. And we saw
so fierce.
Yeah.
Blake Slatengren. I don't know if you guys were observing him and his performance throughout the day yesterday, but silent assassin like John Ray from the Seattle, Washington area, bringing home a golden ticket. But I don't know if there's anything you want to say about Blake, or if you guys know him personally, or...
I don't know. I'm just like super impressed. I don't know. Like he ran up into second, by the end, and that is mega. And so I want to go look at his data and stuff, see how if he posted it on Strava, to see how that went down. But just kudos, man. I think he's coached by Stringbean, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think he's coached
Yeah,
by Joe.
no, I think you're right. Yep.
So it's just like, what a great day for him, breakout performance. Now I'm like, man, I want to go kind of do a deep dive and see what he's going to do at States. Guy's a stud.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up his splits here too.
Yeah. I don't know how he did that because, he must have run like a crazy 4th and 5th lap.
Yeah, because he was sort of in the back half of the top 10, I think, coming through the first lap. But, just steady throughout the day. And we should say also ran 12:58, under 13 hours.
Ridiculous.
He was, I think, only a few seconds slower than Dakota's winning time from last year. So third fastest time in history in his first 100 miler.
It's an all-time result for him, dude. That's huge.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Super
Yeah,
exciting.
it's funny too because this still will kind of fly under the radar in terms of like the storylines of the weekend, right? Not many people know who Blake is, but this is very much like a huge
Go follow Blake, man. It shouldn't,
breakthrough for
that's
him.
huge.
Right.
Yeah.
He was second at the Gorge 100K this year. That's the only reason why I know who he is. But like we were just talking about with Ryan, like he's sort of a well-known quantity in the Seattle running community, and it'll be great to see him line up at Western States.
Maybe shout out Gorge, great indicator of future performance
Yeah, 100%.
potential.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely. So
It's cool thinking, like, I think of John Ray's path, like, and seeing like someone like Blake now in that position of like, like second, like a quietly rose to second. And like, I think maybe even like last year and past years, we would have like thought of John Ray in that camp. And like now, like seeing him at that world-class kind of attention level, like cool to see someone like Blake, like breaking into that path himself.
So true.
Okay, so this is really interesting. All right, so Blake was 8 minutes behind Ryan coming through headquarters, heading out on the 5th lap.
That
8
makes
minutes
sense.
behind.
I didn't see him.
Yep.
And I saw Ryan
Yeah.
pretty close to
Yep.
John.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so Ryan was like 5.5 minutes behind John, leaving to go out on the 5th lap. Blake was 8 minutes then behind. Blake was 8 minutes behind Ryan, so therefore 13 minutes or so behind John in the lead.
But
John
didn't Golden take a position?
in Golden
So-
take a position.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
John ran that final lap in 2 hours 28 minutes. And if I'm doing my math correctly, and aside from Dakota, John's final lap is 9 minutes faster than anybody has ever run that final lap. And it looks to me like Blake ran it in 2:29, so only a minute slower than John did. So Blake ran
Damn.
a faster final lap than Dakota, therefore the second fastest final lap in
Low
history
key.
too.
That's
Low key.
crazy.
Ticket hungry.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's interesting too, just thinking of like the timing of how some of those moves must have gone down. I mean, I feel like what's interesting about yesterday is like, because we're all at the start finish area, we're not really seeing moves out on course, let alone like, I don't think runners are seeing much like cheering besides aides out there. And so I'm really curious because I think something must have gone down that last lap where maybe like Ryan made his move. Maybe was it early, and then like Blake was opportunistic with taking advantage of like a Ryan that was fading from making a move, maybe a little early. I'm just curious. Like, do we
Yeah.
know anything about how that went down?
My guess is that Ryan hit a little bit of a rough patch leaving to go out on the second loop because Blake had made up a bunch of time by the time they got to Coyote, the first aid station on the final loop. And then it was like a minute separating the two at Jackass, and it was still, I think, only a minute or so at Rattlesnake. So those guys were like seriously racing at the end, and Blake ultimately won by about a minute. And we should recap too, on the live stream, we didn't even know that Blake had crossed the finish line.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had cameras on Ryan as he came in sprinting.
Gosh.
And so we thought Ryan finished in second place. It was like
Yeah.
30 minutes later that we realized that Blake had actually.
My God.
And the
Here's
tracking
ours.
showed them flipped it
Yeah,
there
Yes.
too.
Here's my thing. To be able to race like that at the end of 100 miles is super impressive. I'm like so excited to see what he can do at States. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
100%. Because, you know, there's a good amount left in the tank if he's able to, close like that.
I think all three of those guys too are between like 26 and 29 years old too. So they're all, I think all of them kind
Their
of
whole
like,
life ahead of him.
yeah, just like emerging into their prime, you know,
Totally.
Yeah, totally.
and these performances certainly being illustrative of that.
And like, I think overall just super exciting to see that like, you know, like ultimately those three are all like capable of limitless things. And it really yesterday was just coming down to like a few really specific moments. And I think we're just seeing that more and more in races where
Yeah.
it's like the difference between like a win and maybe even like not being on the podium is
Yeah.
coming down to maybe like one or two critical moves. And so it's requiring a lot of like strategy on part of all these runners to put those final details together.
Yep.
So John Ray's finishing margin was just about 15 minutes. So pretty solid,
Convincing.
you know, convincing, substantial gap there at the finish line. It was his race. He's sort of in control of it throughout the day, but 3 of the 4 fastest times ever run between John Ray, Blake Slatengren, and Ryan Montgomery. 4th place, Dan Green, the pride of West Virginia. I love
it.
this kid. I barely know him, but Ryan and I met him at the finish line of Black Canyon. Ryan actually got to hand him his award at the end of Black Canyon. And I was like, man, how did it go? He's like, I'm ready for another 30. Sure enough, he was ready for another 30. His first 100 miler also, he ran 13:18.
Such a great run.
It would have been the 5th fastest time ever. So
Such a
it's
great
now
time.
like, I think the 8th fastest time ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Smoking.
All right, so let me just go through the rest of the top 10, and you guys can add anything you want. We had Zach Bitter in 5th, 13:34, and then again we had Heather Jackson and Ragnar DeBots finished 6th and 7th overall. So then Ryan Raff was 6th male, 8th overall, 14:57. Miller Groom, 15:12 in 7th. Eric Maya, 15:30 in 8th. Brian Charbonneau, 15:33 in 9th. And Jeff Stern rounding out the top 10 in 15:35. Again, 3 hours separating 1st and 10th.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, shout out to all those competitors, but it is like a good reminder. Like the top end performances are just getting so elite.
yeah.
That's insane.
Totally. And like, I think also, I mean, there's a number of names there in the back half of the top 10 that were new to me. And like, always thinking of these things too. A couple days ago, we're here previewing a lot of names that we're not hearing now and a lot of names that are new to us. And like, I think it's like cool to just see some runners be able to be opportunistic with some of the carnage and work their way into like a top 10 performance at a huge race.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
shout out to all of them for proving us wrong.
Seriously.
Totally. All right, so let's talk about the women. Heather Jackson, wire to wire.
Love to see it.
So great.
Unbelievable. I mean, coming through the first lap, she was in like 5th or 6th overall.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like this is aggressive.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be a hard one to finish with this sort of opening strategy.
Yep. Wasn't she under course record splits for a while?
I think she was.
she?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Abby, Heather, the floor is yours.
Heather, that was super exciting to watch. I mean, end to end, I think we were all hoping that that's like how the race would start out, and like I think we were all hoping that's also how it would finish. Seeing her be able to pull that together end to end was super exciting. I believe Devin Yanko paced her the back 40,
Yeah.
which was super cool to see, and like I actually loved like it's like kind of like at weddings, it's like watch the groom's face. I loved watching Devin's face when Heather finished because I think Devin having been champion here last year, and then like supporting her competitor from last year. I believe they like got out for training runs, and I don't know if they were friends already, but maybe became friends this year. And for then Devin to be supporting Heather to her victory was really cool to watch. And like I think just seeing Heather put together the race that we all know she's capable of in the 100-mile distance was I mean of course last year as well, but like seeing her get that win was super exciting. And I think gives us a exciting reminder of what's to come at Western States, hopefully.
Definitely. Super happy to see her put down that performance. It was awesome.
Yeah. So we were talking in the pre-race show about how Camille Herron's course record is a bit of an outlier. She was on or near course record through, I think, the first 4 laps before she lost a little bit of time. She still finished in 14:24:47, the second fastest time ever, 12 minutes faster than Devin Yanko's winning time. From last year, I pulled the same splits that I did from John through Jackass to the headquarters. She did a 118 split on the 3rd lap, 116 on the 4th lap, then 125 on the 5th lap. So not like John, where she ended up running the fastest possible 5th lap split, but still pretty even, pretty solid throughout the day. And I think critically for her, especially after last year where she faded all the way back to 5th, faded a little bit, but still ran the second fastest time ever. So awesome to see Heather, and it's so fun to just kind of follow her journey as an athlete. Only her 3rd 100-mile start, 2nd 100-mile finish, and she's dropping historically fast times at huge races. So
it's interesting.
awesome.
I think she kind of like held her gap. Like I feel like I saw her come in at the end of the 3rd lap, having put some distance on, I'll just call it the Ragnar Riley combo, maybe like, cause I think they were kind of swapping positions, but then it seemed like she held that 25-minute lead pretty solid, laps 4 and 5, and ultimately finishing, how many minutes was it ahead of Ragnar? Like about a half hour?
Yeah, about 30.
Yep. Interesting.
So speaking of Ragna, she's coming back to Western States.
Yeah.
44 years old.
Current.
Dutch athlete. She's been a world dominator. She's won some of the best races in the world. And she was 3rd place at Western States the year that Beth Pascal won in 2021. Ran a really fast, I think like 17:45 or something like that.
Current Masters record holder.
Current Masters record holder, that's right. And she just like was, quietly steady throughout the day too. The gap ultimately was 30 minutes, so it was a significant margin of victory for Heather, but Ragna securing the golden ticket, coming back to Western States.
No surprise,
None.
It's like that's the type of athlete she is, you know?
Yeah. I think she's definitely like a grinder, and so it was interesting to see her on a race that just was like so mercilessly fast, like I think I saw her when she was having a bit of a low and Riley had just passed her for I think lap 4 and then Ragna like past Riley. So like, I think I saw her in a bit of a low, but it was just like nice to see her kind of like, rally and still like finish strong despite like kind of maybe a lower midsection of the day.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was that she was steady. I could be wrong in perceiving that.
Well, yeah. Ragnar and Riley did have a bit of a battle going on, and then I think it was coming through the headquarters the final time to where Ragnar had a 6-minute gap on Riley, and that only grew from headquarters all the way back to the finish line. But amazing run from Ragnar, 14:55.27, a time that would have won the race many years.
Yeah.
Good enough for second place. Riley Brady, Boulder Zone, your pick to win, I think.
My pick to win.
Second place last year. Riley had a tough 5th lap. We had cameras on them at Jackass, and Riley was just puking into the garbage can there at mile 90 something, which we've all been there.
So
right?
tough though to finish.
Tough. So tough. Ended up closing the final loop 15:29 for Riley. Barely missing out on that golden ticket. Probably disappointing. Wonder if they'll sign up for Black Canyon or Canyons or Thailand, maybe even.
Oh, wow. Maybe.
yeah.
I got to think, though. They have so much potential. And I mean, we all have tough races, but rooting for them. Don't regret my first place pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They ran super strong. And I'm curious again, kind of with that timing of the moves, like we spoke about in the men's race, like curious if Riley maybe made a move and then was kind of paying a price later, or
Sort of like Ryan, maybe.
Yeah, possibly.
Anyway, awesome performance for the women's podium. So let's just go through the rest of the top 10. You guys can add whatever color you have here. Again, it was a huge 5-hour gap between first and 10th, tons of attrition. So 4th place was Lauren Peretz. 5th place was Nicole Monette. 6th, McKendry Hickory. 7th was Jacqueline Ferogi. 8th was Jill Wojta. 9th was Megan Guler. 10th was Melissa Brown. A bunch of names that I'm not familiar with. Any?
Well, Lauren P., she is from the Springs, and she's super strong. She's actually friends with Matt, and so she's been on my radar for a while. She's had these types of performances at a bunch of golden ticket races, like 4th, 5th.
Yeah.
So she's super talented. I'm not surprised at all. I think I had her like 5th in my pick.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
So yeah, she's no surprise with that performance.
Well, you got that right.
Exciting.
So
Yeah.
that's 11th overall in the fantasy rankings
saying.
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abby, any other comments on the women's field?
Yeah, again, like I think some names I'm less familiar with in the back of that top 10. But yeah, super exciting end to end to just watch all that play out, and would have loved to see how things played out had things gone better for a few people I know we had spoken about in the preview, but it's a race with a high attrition rate, like we've mentioned. I mean, I think heat got a lot of people, as well as just kind of like you mentioned, like end of the season, it's kind of like it can go one of two ways, of people either being like, you know what, it's been a great season, this isn't working for me today, or like, finish this thing off.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone certainly who's getting that finish should be so proud, but especially top 10 at a race like this, I think all those competitors in both fields should feel super proud.
Yeah. All right, so just a couple more sort of closing comments before we wind down. Again, just shout out to Raj Panu, who ran 7:15 to break the course record in the 100K. Anna Cassius ran 8:13, finished second overall, and smashed the course record in the 100K to take home the women's victory yesterday. The 30K was awesome, starting late night last night. Well, I guess like sort of around dinner time. Ryan was saying that next year he and his partner Addie are going to come back and run the wave 2 of the 31K, because what he said was the 31K started at 6 p.m. last night with wave 1 going out onto the race course, and then there was a 30-minute dance party where wave 2 in the starting corral was just dancing, glow sticks,
No way.
fire
Love
spinners.
Wow.
So a 30-minute dance party warm up, and then you go out and
That's
do
a
your
little
20
insider
mile
beta
loop.
for next year for everybody. Wow.
That's amazing.
So let's all sign up for the wave 2 of the 30K next year. But yeah, what a great weekend. Just great vibes. Just hanging around Javelina headquarters all day yesterday. I didn't drive around to any of the aid stations. I just fell into a million conversations with friends old and new, and just had such an amazing weekend. So
Just have to say, shout out Aravipa. That setup, that whole tent city village area is just as good in person as it looks on the live stream, and it's was awesome. Great experience.
Really?
Yeah, like highly recommend anyone who is like, inspired by watching that yesterday to get out here, either
Yes.
to race, to crew, to pace, just to hang out. Like it's as cool as it looks. So
Yeah.
it's definitely on my radar in the next couple of years. I'd
Same.
love to get out there.
Me too. Yeah. I'm hoping to be here every year going forward.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, echoing a big thank you to Aerovipa for hosting all of us. We are now, I think, an hour away from, we're in golden hour right now.
Yes.
So the final finishers are probably making their way down the hill. And we should give a big shout out to Jamil Curry, who last I checked had gone through Jackass the 5th time in like 260th place
Oh
or
my
something
gosh.
like that.
And Jubilee race director who is
Yes.
costumed and like keeping the party alive at
Yeah.
the start finish area all night, just like commanding the crowd on stage, like keeping the vibes high. It was so great.
Yeah. So fun.
Yeah.
Well, a great weekend, a great way to sort of end the North American ultra season in a lot of ways. I'm sure there's still a lot of American athletes that are going to be going to Cape Town and Thailand and stuff, but it feels like things are sort of wrapping up, and what a great season it has been. Appreciate you both for joining us here on the shows these last couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Dylan. This was
Thanks,
fun.
Dylan.
Thanks to our viewing audience. Thanks to our guy Ryan behind the scenes for all his hard work.
Yep. Creating content, helping people get back out there on the course during the day, doing the Lord's work.
Lord's work. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks to Hoka for their support of the program. And we'll catch you all very soon. Peace out.